Imagine the sky opens tomorrow morning, not with the rising sun, but with a face so divine or a fleet so terrifying that every human on earth falls to their knees in unison. Your eyes see it with unmistakable clarity. Your ears hear a voice speaking directly into your mind, whispering in your own mother tongue, addressing your deepest fears and most secret hopes. In that singular moment, the history of the world changes forever. But as you tremble in awe or fear, a single, chilling question remains: is what you are witnessing a genuine miracle, or is it the most sophisticated optical illusion ever devised by human hands? We live in an era where the boundary between the physical and the digital is dissolving, leading many to wonder if our very reality can be hijacked by those who own the light and the sound. The human eye is a remarkable organ, a product of millions of years of evolution, yet it is also one of the easiest instruments to deceive. Throughout history, the masters of influence have understood that to control a population, one must first control their perception of the truth. From the clever smoke and mirrors used by ancient oracles to the mass propaganda films of the 20th century, the tools of deception have evolved alongside our deepest understanding of physics and psychology. Today, we stand on the brink of a technological frontier where the sky itself could be transformed into a global cinema screen. This is the realm of high-altitude holographic projection, a theoretical framework where the heavens are used as a canvas for a synchronized, global psychological operation. The concept of a massive, coordinated visual event is no longer confined to the pages of science fiction. The technology required to orchestrate such a feat has moved into the corridors of advanced research and development. In recent years, we have seen 3D holograms of deceased musicians performing on stage with haunting realism, their every gesture indistinguishable from life. We have witnessed thousands of synchronized drones creating complex, glowing structures in the night sky, moving with a precision that defies traditional aviation. But what happens when these technologies are scaled to a planetary level? Theoretical models suggest that laser-based imagery could be projected onto the sodium layer of the atmosphere, approximately 60 miles above the Earth, creating three-dimensional images that appear to be miles high and visible across entire continents. The risk of such a scenario lies not just in the visual spectacle, but in the psychological vulnerability of a world constantly in crisis. History demonstrates that during times of immense global tension, economic instability, or environmental fear, humanity becomes desperate for a unifying force. Whether that force is presented as a common enemy from beyond the stars or a divine figure returning to bring eternal peace, the psychological impact would be absolute. The conflict arises when we realize that such an event would not require a genuine supernatural occurrence. It would merely require the right frequency of light and the right sequence of images to trigger a collective, primitive emotional response. This is the ultimate intersection of high technology and ancient mythology, a bridge built of photons and fear. Consider the role of acoustics in this hypothetical landscape. Scientists have long researched the effects of low-frequency sound and directional audio. It is technically possible to beam sound waves over vast distances that vibrate the human skull, creating the sensation of a voice speaking from within one's own head. This is not a matter of magic, it is the application of complex wave physics and bone conduction. If a global population sees a majestic figure in the sky and simultaneously hears a voice resonating within their own minds, the internal logic of the individual will struggle to find any explanation other than the one being presented. The skepticism of the modern age would vanish in an instant, replaced by an overwhelming sense of wonder or dread that bypasses the rational brain entirely. The theoretical framework for such an operation often involves several distinct phases of implementation, each designed to erode the target's sense of reality. The first phase would involve a calculated breakdown of existing belief systems. This might be achieved through the discovery of manufactured archaeological evidence or the intentional discrediting of long-held historical narratives. By shaking the foundations of what people believe about their past, the stage is set for a new, orchestrated story. If a population can be convinced that their history is a lie, they may be much more likely to accept a new, synthetic future. This represents a profound form of psychological redirection applied to a massive scale, where the very concept of heritage is replaced by a carefully curated simulation. The second phase would be the actual manifestation of the celestial event. Using a network of satellites or high-altitude platforms, a cinematic display could be projected globally. The imagery would likely be tailored to the cultural expectations of different regions to ensure maximum impact. In one part of the world, it might appear as an extraterrestrial fleet offering salvation from environmental collapse. In another, it could be a religious icon fulfilling a long-awaited prophecy. The goal would be to create a state of disorientation and emotional exhaustion. In this state of collective shock, traditional structures might seem irrelevant compared to the cosmic event unfolding above. It is the ultimate distraction, a light show of such magnitude that it blinds the world to the machinations happening on the ground. This leads to the most complex aspect of the discussion, the potential for a total shift in global governance. When faced with a perceived global threat or a global savior, humanity tends to set aside differences with startling speed. A simulated global crisis could provide a powerful catalyst for the centralization of political and military power. If the survival of the species appears to be at stake, few would argue against a single authority taking control. The danger is the possibility that this authority might be the very entity that initiated the display, using the illusion of a miracle or a threat to manufacture consent for a level of control never before seen. It is a governance of shadows, where the mandate of the ruler is written in the stars by a laser. The debate over these possibilities often focuses on whether such a feat is even technically possible today. Critics point to the immense energy requirements and the atmospheric conditions needed to maintain a stable hologram of that size. However, those who study technological advancements suggest that public-facing technology is often significantly behind what is being developed in private or classified sectors. The transition from two-dimensional screens to three-dimensional spatial computing is already happening in our living rooms. It may only be a matter of scale before the world outside becomes an extension of that digital environment, and the atmosphere itself becomes a medium for information. The sky is no longer the limit, it is the interface. We must also consider the role of artificial intelligence in orchestrating such a grand deception. An advanced AI could monitor the real-time emotional and social media reactions of a population, adjusting a holographic performance on the fly to maximize its impact. If a particular region shows signs of skepticism, the divine voice could address those doubts directly, using data-driven insights to manipulate the narrative. If another region reacts with panic, the imagery could shift to something more soothing. This would be a living, interactive illusion that adapts to collective psychology in real time, making it nearly impossible to debunk as it happens. It is a feedback loop where our own reactions provide the data used to further deceive us. The conflict between our senses and our reason is the central theme of this dark narrative. For thousands of years, seeing was believing, a reliable mantra for survival. If you saw a predator, you ran. If you saw a fire, you sought warmth. But in the digital age, seeing is no longer a guarantee of truth. We have entered the era of the deepfake, where video and audio can be perfectly manipulated to show anyone saying or doing anything. The leap from a fake video on a smartphone to a fake vision in the sky is shorter than most would like to admit. The technology to manipulate perception has outpaced our biological ability to discern the truth, leaving us adrift in a sea of synthetic light. There is a profound risk in how this technology could be used to exploit our deepest fears and highest hopes. Religion and the search for extraterrestrial life are two of the most powerful drivers of human behavior. By mimicking these elements, those with the capability to project such images would essentially be interacting directly with the core of human consciousness. The fear is not just that we would be lied to, but that we would welcome the lie because it provides simple answers during a time of global uncertainty. We are often more comfortable with a beautiful lie than an uncertain reality. The illusion provides a sense of purpose and unity, even if that unity is built upon a foundation of ghosts and mirrors. How would the world truly react if such an event began tonight? Imagine the chaos in the streets, the sudden cessation of all commerce, and the desperate reactions of billions. Then, imagine the silence that follows when the voice speaks. The power of this scenario lies in its ability to bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the part of us that responds to light, sound, and the presence of something larger than ourselves. In that moment, who would have the presence of mind to look for the hidden projectors? Who would think to analyze the spectral signature of the light instead of bowing down in submission? The sheer scale of the event would be its own greatest defense against scrutiny. This brings us to an ethical and philosophical crossroads. As we continue to develop technologies that can augment or replace reality, we must ask ourselves what safeguards we have in place. If the sky can be faked, what remains of our objective reality? The fragility of our shared perception is perhaps a great vulnerability in the modern world. We are connected by digital threads that can be pulled at any moment to unravel our understanding of the world. Our reliance on technology has made us more informed, but it has also made us more susceptible to sophisticated forms of perception management. We are building a world where the truth is a luxury that few can afford to verify. The discussion surrounding these high-level deceptions serves as a reminder to maintain a rigorous level of critical thinking. In a world where the impossible can be rendered in high definition, we must become more than just observers, we must become investigators of our own senses. The threat is not necessarily a secret group, but rather the unchecked growth of technologies that can be used to manufacture consent on a global scale. The most effective prison is one where the inmates don't even know they are behind bars because the walls are made of beautiful, glowing light. We must learn to look past the radiance to find the cold machinery that powers it. As we look to the future, the integration of augmented reality into our daily lives will only make these scenarios more plausible. When everyone is wearing glasses or lenses that overlay digital information onto the physical world, a celestial show doesn't even need to be projected into the atmosphere, it only needs to be sent as a software update. The boundary between the real sky and the digital sky will vanish entirely. We could live in a curated reality where our perceptions are managed by algorithms designed to keep us focused on whatever spectacle is currently playing above our heads. It is a future where our very environment is a broadcast, and the sun itself is just another pixel in a grand design. The ultimate conflict in this narrative is the struggle for the human internal landscape in an age of total simulation. If we can no longer trust the sun, the moon, or the stars, what can we trust? The answer may lie within the very human qualities that these technologies try to mimic: intuition, skepticism, and the stubborn refusal to accept a miracle that comes with a terms of service agreement. We must learn to distinguish between the light of truth and the glow of a phosphor-coated screen. Our internal compass is the only thing that cannot be recalibrated by an external signal. It is the quiet, insistent voice of reason that remains when the celestial choir stops singing. The possibility of a large-scale technological deception is a chilling reminder of the power of perception. Whether such a project is a current reality or a future risk, the lesson remains the same. Our eyes can be fooled, our ears can be deceived, and our minds can be manipulated by those who understand the physics of light and the chemistry of fear. The next time you look up at the night sky and see something that defies explanation, remember that the most advanced technology is often indistinguishable from magic, and the most dangerous magic is the kind that tells you exactly what you want to hear. The stars have always been our guides, but in the coming age, we must ensure they are not merely reflections of our own manipulated desires. Stay vigilant, stay skeptical, and never forget that the most important truths are often the ones that cannot be projected onto a cloud or beamed into a headset. The darkness of the thriller we inhabit is not always the absence of light, but the presence of a light that was designed to blind us to what is right in front of our faces. Keep your eyes open, but keep your mind even wider. The battle for reality has already begun, and the first casualty is often our own belief in what is possible. Be wary of the voices in the air and the visions in the clouds. Sometimes the greatest threats to our freedom come not from the shadows, but from a brilliance that is too perfect to be real. If tomorrow the sky opens up and a voice calls your name, will you fall to your knees and surrender, or will you look for the machine behind the curtain? Will you trust the miracle, or will you trust your intuition? The future of our species may depend on our ability to tell the difference between a divine calling and a digital broadcast. In a world of shadows, the one who carries their own light is the only one who can truly see. Our reality is a precious thing. We must ensure that we are the ones who define it, rather than those who seek to project their own version of the truth onto the canvas of our lives. The sky is the limit for our technology, but our discernment must reach even further. In the end, the most sophisticated projection in the world is no match for a mind that refuses to stop asking questions. The light in the sky may be beautiful, but the truth is usually found in the quiet, steady beat of a human heart that refuses to be fooled.